In this video, we'll be looking at whether renting or buying an apartment suits you better. We look at the similarities and differences between the two and which option fits what kind of people and the pros and cons of each. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and like the video. There are special tips towards the end, so watch till the end. Apartment and house are used interchangeably throughout the video, as you can buy either a house or an apartment and vice versa. Okay, the first item of comparison is the initial costs, which are expenses required before moving in. When buying a house, you'll need to pay transfer fees if the house had a previous owner and isn't a new development. In some cases, you have an option to include this in your bond, although it's not advisable. Another initial cost when buying a house is the bond registration fee. This is for setting up your bond with the bank or an institution which will be offering you a bond. Another initial cost are municipal water and electricity reconnections. When renting an apartment, you usually only need to pay the deposit, which is usually just 1 month's rent. Now let's compare the operating costs of each, which you'll need to pay either monthly or intermittently. When buying, you'll have to pay for repairs and maintenance. These include mowing of lawns, the repairing of leaking roofs, geyser damages, paint damages, and other costs. These are intermittent and most of the time catch you off guard and without a budget. Good advice is to have a personal emergency fund to cover such costs. Another operating cost when buying is municipal levies. You pay this at the municipality. These include storage usage, waste collection, and water and electricity maintenance. If you bought your residential property as a sectional title, then you'll have to pay the homeowner's levies. A sectional title is simply a property inside a complex. These levies cover the cleaning, lawn mowing and gardening, security and outside maintenance of the complex, like cleaning outside windows and the likes. The next cost when buying residential property to rent out is tenant management agencies. These agencies are responsible for the acquisition of a tenant and the collection of rent from the tenant. They also manage communication with the tenant so you can continue with other business or work and not have to worry about it. They'll also assist in case there's a breach of a lease agreement, so you don't have to stress about lawyers. With regards to renting an apartment, there are really no operating costs involved. You only pay for serious damages to the property, and that's deducted from your deposit when you leave. In both buying and renting, you have to pay for water and electricity. You also have the convenience of a roof over your head. Now let's look at the pros and cons of buying property versus renting property. First of all, buying property is one of the best investments you can make in life in general. Property usually appreciates in value and isn't fragile, unlike shares, for example. You can only really lose value if the surrounding area experiences something dramatic, like a natural disaster. One thing to note when buying to sell, make sure that there is enough tenant demand in the area before buying. Another pro is that you can modify the house as you wish, provided it's not in a complex where there are strict design rules. A con of buying is that your bond is basically a loan. You still have to pay interest on it. The good thing is that the interest rate is usually less than loans. Bonds also take a long time to pay off, usually 20 years and sometimes more if you're not making capital reductions. Another con is that you have to stay in one place for the duration of the bond. When coming to renting, the big advantage is that you can relocate easier. After a contract expires, you can move closer to work to minimize traveling costs, move in with someone to minimize rental costs, move back home in some circumstances, or simply move to a cheaper apartment. The con is that you're simply paying off someone else's bond. This principle of paying off someone else's bond is classified under OPM, which means other people's money. It's a great investment strategy. Now let's look at some bonus tips and tricks. When buying to rent, verify that there are sufficient employers around. This will ensure that you have enough potential tenants. Another tip is to ensure that there is ease of access to public transport. This also increases the potential number of interested tenants. Also, when you're calculating your rental profit, make sure to deduct the municipal rates, the homeowners levies, and the tenant management agency costs from the rent. This will give you a more accurate figure. If you're just starting out with a new employer, it's usually advised to wait a bit before buying. This is because you might not find the company to be a good fit for you. Also, it's generally a good idea to invest in a property which is central to an economically active city. As always, remember to subscribe and like. Thank you, and if you have any questions, just jot them in the comment section.